The newest Fortnite and UEFN update is here, and there's some pretty crazy things. They've added a new entire mode to UEFN. It's for Fortnite tools, which basically allow you to use world edit, like in Minecraft. There's some crazy new devices, guns. They've also changed how memory calculation works. There's also one controversial thing they've added that we'll get into a little bit later, but let's just get right to it. Alright, so first things first, what they've added is if you go to the pop-up dialog device in here, they've now added 12 buttons, finally, for the pop-up dialog device. So if you go into here now, there's new options for button 7 to 12 text, and you can also do the events as well. And there's also a new option for do not close on button press. It's very helpful because I know a lot of people hated how you pressed the UI button, the UI would just instantly close. Now you can actually just turn that off, and now you can infinitely press a UI button and it'll work like that. Next thing is a really cool thing, and they've added a completely new mode to UEFN. So as you know, we have selection mode, we have landscape mode, but now if we go into here, we now have Fortnite tools mode. So if we go into Fortnite tools, there's 4 Fortnite tools right now. I'm gonna guess there's gonna be more in the future. Basically, we have helper assets, we have snap to targets, 3D select, and travel time. We'll go through these one by one. 3D select is already the best one, but we'll go to helper select. Option that's just to do is create assets that are gonna help us do stuff. So if we go into asset place, we can have a player height reference and a color calibrator. Literally, if you just left click, it'll just place a guy, and you can use this to find out how big the player is in the world and be able to reference the world around that. Makes sense. And also with the color calibrator, you do this as well. Spawn is a weird looking thing that you can use to calibrate your settings in your map and see how different materials react to the world. So yeah, pretty cool. If you want to keep them in the world, you can do complete. And there we go. And if I go back into here, you can also remove all placed assets. So if you don't want them anywhere in the world anymore, you can remove them. They're just a little tiny little thing like that, but it's pretty helpful if you want to use them. Next thing we have is snap targets. It's relative snapping, if that makes sense. So if I go into my contour, and let's say if I grab a gnome, like this guy, there we go, gnome, and bring him out. Let's say if I wanted to snap this gnome to different things. So if you see in here, there's a bunch of different shortcuts that we can use. A bunch of snapping general options. So we have snap use of like round, rotation angle increment, selection snap access, and ignore duplicated. Basically, the way this works is that if you hold X, you can now move the prop in the relative to where it was. So I wanted to put it here, I can unrelease X, and there we go. Or if I do it again, I can do this, and it's just a really quick way of being able to, snap the target. Okay, another thing you do is if you hold X and mouse wheel, you can rotate the gnome or whatever you have. So that's pretty cool. And again, in the rotation angle increment, you can change the angle. So if I do 90 degrees, I can rotate that snap, so it'll rotate 90 degrees. Ignore how I spawned another one, that's the next to show you. But basically, the next thing is that if I have something selected and I hold X and I click over here, and if I click, I can place objects relative to this guy. That makes sense. So now there's a bunch of domes everywhere, which is pretty funny. There's a bunch of cool options like snap the object to the ground. I think if I do that, it'll snap the object around. I think it's already doing that, but okay, if I want to move things up, I can hold C and mouse wheel. Sorry, hold C mouse wheel, and I can move things up. I think it's snap. So I can move things up and down. If I get rid of the angle increment back down to 10, I can do more fine movements, I think. So if I do, oops, that's the entire thing. If I do this, I can really get exact with what I'm doing. I'll snap to the ground. So you also have selection snap access, like left, right, front, back, top, bottom, and center. So you can change the axis of where on the prop where you want to rotate. So this is right, so it's doing the right side of this is front, so it's gonna do front, and you know how it goes. It's just where the line comes out of. Probably touches RE1 on bottom because that's where most of the time the prop will be coming out of. But anyways, we have a bunch of gnomes now. That's how snap the target works. And next thing is probably the best thing. It's called 3D select. And basically what this is like a world edit from Minecraft. If I grab something like a dojo. Alright, here's the dojo, okay? And basically what I can do is if I select somewhere on this, like anywhere, if I just select it, as you see, it's gonna create a bounding box that's in red, okay? And that's my selection box. So if I go up here or something, and I select here, as you see now, it's going to select from there to there, okay? There's a bunch of different ways we can change this box, so we can have resize volume, scale volume, uniformly, and cycle object visibility. So what we can do is, if I resize the volume, if I hold X, I'll get a bunch of arrows, and I can resize the volume. So now I can select parts of my prefab I can now use to change the whatever I want. So let's say if I wanted to like get only the top half of this prefab, and I didn't want the rest, what I can do is do this, and I'll select like only like half the thing. I only want this bit for whatever reason. Now I can select that, and what I can do then is if I do complete, I now have it all already selected, and I can move it to wherever the hell I want, which is pretty cool. And as you can see, it's gonna work. I don't know why the lanterns didn't work, who knows. And there we go. Now another thing you can do with 3D select is also object visibility, okay? And this is very helpful if you wanna isolate difference in your world. So for example, if I wanted to only see, for example, this gnome right here, what I can do is I can go into object visibility and I can do isolate selected objects, and now the only thing I can see now is my selected object, so it's only the gnome I can see. And I can also do hide select objects, which is basically the opposite, and it's everything you select, so it's everything inside the box. So if I do isolate select objects, it's not going to be these guys, and that's how it works. Pretty cool. You can also change the line thickness, so you can actually see, I don't think it's going to, oh no, it is working. Change the line thickness. You can choose volume mesh if you want to see the volume mesh. You can also change the color if you want to do that as well for accessibility. So anyways, like with this now, you can do complete. You have a selection now, you can copy now, and you can just do whatever you want with selection. It's just a new way to select things. It's like basically world edit from Minecraft. Now last thing in these tools is travel time, and this is a way to calculate how long it takes for the player to traverse your island, which is pretty cool. There's a bunch of different movement presets like run, walk, and all the different kinds of movement. You have movement speed, you have your movement multiplier. So if you have like a movement multiplier on your character or your player, you can detect times it will take for them to run. All we have to do now is to click somewhere, and then we click somewhere else, and it's going to create a segment. And this segment includes the time it will take to travel. So I don't know why it looks so weird, but basically it'll take 10 seconds to travel this distance. So if I keep on clicking around and I just make like a path like this, I'll be able to figure out how long it will take the player to do this weird like figure 8 that I just made. And if I look on the total information, it's going to total distance is that, total time is 78, and it's pretty cool. Let's say if you wanted to move a segment, you can hold X and you'll get a bunch of arrows that you can move segments with. Cool. You can also divide, delete, and add segments at the beginning if you want. There's a bunch of different control options there. There's also a bunch of text options, so you can change text size, text color. So this is very cool for optimizing your map, seeing how long it will take to complete different things. Yeah, pretty cool stuff right here. So that's the Fortnite tools. Next thing in this video is that Squid Game Islands are going to be coming out on August the 14th, so keep that in mind at 9 AM ET. And by the way, you have until August the 12th, 9 AM ET, which is 2 days before, to get your Squid Game Island conversions in. So if you have any islands you want to convert to Squid Game Island, you can do that there. Next thing is a pretty bad news for a lot of things. It's user options will be locked to set minimum and maximum value. Now basically what this is that things like the HUD message device, I know a lot of people were using this little trick where you can increase the options inside the HUD message device to basically allow you to have more UIs or more stuff. Same with like an explosive device, you can increase the radius to like 1,000,000, so you can explode everything at once on an island with very low memory cost. And a lot of really cool, useful things like that, but Epic seem to have cracked down on it and are now going to be enforcing the set minimum and maximum value. I can understand this from their point of view. It does affect performance on maps, but it does kind of affect a lot of things, okay? It's going to break hundreds, if not thousands of maps in Fortnite Creative. Now, if you're in the other communities around the gaming space, sometimes bugs do like naturally become part of something, if that makes sense. So e.g. would be Minecraft. A lot of redstone machines require bugs, like bug powering to work. A mechanic in redstone is from a bug, and eventually Mojang just incorporated that into Minecraft because so many machines used it. There's also been many other cases where bugs also then became features, so I think this should probably just become a feature in my opinion. I don't see the reason why you want to delete it. You can read through this if you want. It's pretty much what I just said. If you don't like this and you don't want your minimum maximum values to be changed, you want to go into the feedback and requests form and make sure that we get your voice heard, okay? Go into the forums, upvote any posts that you see complaining about this, and stuff like that. Do that if you want this to happen, or if you don't want this to happen, or at least have some devices where the limit isn't just 4 layers and a UI, because oh my god, that's so annoying. So just keep that in mind, everybody. I would recommend going and getting your voice heard. And next thing, we have a Debug Commands menu. Right now the servers are down, so I'm not going to go and test this, but basically you can spawn test players, despawn test players, and eliminate nearby AI, which is very helpful. If you want to find this, you can go into the debug menu in a creative and UEFN session. After starting the game, you want to press escape to open a sidebar, and then look for Debug Commands, a button above the end game button. Next thing is easier collaboration with SceneGraph projects and one file per entity beta release. So this is just like, let's SceneGraph be used in multiplayer or when you're using revision control. You can now use SceneGraph with other people. There's also new performance mode, user interface feature templates, which goes on to the 12 buttons. And also, it's also important to note that Verse actually has text size added to it now. So there's now font size in Verse, which is something people have been waiting for quite a while. Okay, it's been forever. But you can actually change the text size in Verse now. Next, we have UEFN memory calculation updates. There's a bunch of new memory calculation updates to a bunch of maps. This might break a few maps. It might make things a lot easier for you. It just kind of depends on how you build. But generally, what you should expect, faster results on large islands. Instead of teleporting the player around the island, it's just going to get the cook data. So you don't have to go around the island and take forever. It's going to be faster on larger islands. There's going to be more consistent numbers when running calculations on the same island. So there's not going to be 0, and then it's going to be 150,000 and then 70k. And also device. So I know that people were abusing mobile, or they could get less memory if they calculated on mobile, but now it should be pretty flush with every single device, so you can't, like, you know, do that workaround anymore. We've also expanded support types for asset types and also for SceneGraph as well. Now this is going to affect a few islands. Islands may be above the memory limits, but as a cushion for this, Epic have actually allowed you to publish with if you're exceeding the memory limit until the next update was 37.10. After that update, you will need to bring your memories back under the limit. Epic also say that public islands that are over the memory cap may experience performance issues on low-end devices, and will manually remove the outlying islands that creates several performance issues to ensure good experience for players. Now, what I think about this is that why don't they just get rid of it forever? I mean, like, what's the point of it? If you're just going to remove it on an update, why don't you just get rid of it? You know what I mean? If you're going to remove islands based on performance, surely that should be in the responsibility of the creator to make sure the island runs well, not Epic putting up an arbitrary limit that's probably going to just limit everybody anyways. If you just get rid of it, there's going to be so many people who can optimize it really well and really make a lot of stuff useful. It'll open up many doors and it'll be very nice. I don't know why this still exists. This is like some old thing from years ago that still is a thing for some reason that I think shouldn't be a thing. But again, it's not me, it's Epic who decides, so yeah, it is what it is. Next thing up is new devices, the Spire devices. Basically what these are they are the Overlord Spire, the Scout Spire, and finally the Spire Spike. These are all different devices that are like the mini bosses from Battle Royale, the Spire mini bosses, where they, like, you know, attack you and everything. And you can now spawn them in. There's a bunch of different settings inside of these. Like, look at all these settings. Oh my goodness, so many. And you can just go through them and you can do whatever you like with them now, which is pretty cool. Now, we didn't get the bugs from the new season. I'm gonna guess that when chapter 6 comes out or whatever, we're gonna get the bugs, because usually Epic don't release stuff until the season's over, like these Spire things. So we're gonna have to wait until then to get all the bugs in the wildlife spawner or whatever. So just keep that in mind. There's a bunch of new weapons they've added, which is all from the new season: the Bug Blaster, the Swarm Strike, the Eradicator Shotgun Slow Shockwave Launcher, Eradicator XOR Rifle, OXR Rifle, Let's Splitter 3000, Double and Trouble, the 2 shotguns, Sweeper Shotgun, Record Revolver, and the Enhanced Assault Rifle. They've also added a bunch of new items, like this Exotic Slapberry Fizz, the Epic Slurp Juice, the Epic Launchpad Trap, and the Epic Launchpad Item. There's also new documentation about the levels and also material block. Just keep in mind, this doesn't mean we have multiple levels. This is just to explain how levels actually work. Hopefully this is a sign that Epic are adding multi-levels to UEFN, so you can have multiple levels and swap between them in your map. Please add that. Please, I beg of you, Epic Games. Anyways, some SceneGraph fixes, verse fixes, blah 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 blah, and that's it. Okay, I guess last thing in this video, I'm gonna go in game and I'm gonna fight this with all the new weapons. I'm gonna session in a second. I'm gonna see what that's like, and there we go. So the first thing you probably notice is that at the top now the memory bar turns gray when there's content that's been changed and you need to push changes for update values. This is because memory is no longer calculated in game, if that makes sense. It's calculated at the cook, so it'll be faster, but that's one downside. There's no more live memory updates. You have to push the changes again to get the new memory. Alright, so as you can see, there's a massive scary looking cloud. I think it's the boss. It's like a bug blaster. You also have the enhanced Record Revolver. It's like a shotgun. You have the XOR rifles. double and the trouble, which are double pump weapons, so it'll work like a double pump. You also got this Surge Fire SMG, I think, so that's pretty cool. The Swarm Strike, which is like a rocket launcher. And then finally, the Lead Splitter, which is the cool looking minigun. That's pretty cool. Okay, let's actually like fight this thing. I don't know. Uh-oh. I think it's exactly the same as the Battle Royale version. Giant laser coming up to me. Look at that. Bro is dead. That was a pretty cool animation. Final thoughts on the update. It was pretty cool. I think the good outweighs the bad in this update, but there still is bad. But anyways, hope you enjoyed the video. Remember to like, subscribe, and use my code in the Fortnite shop. And thank you to all the members of the channel for support. And watch all these videos for more of my news, updates, whatever, blah 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 videos. That's about it. I'll see you all around.